What's up, guys? Welcome to Next Frontier, where we try to keep you up to date on the latest AI news and trends. My name's Mitchell. Today's February 6th, 2026, and we got multiple drops from the top companies in the space. So let's get into it. Alright, so starting off, we got Opus 4.6 from Anthropic. And if you've been around in the space for a little while, you know Opus 4.5 was really good. So we're all excited to see an Opus drop around here. And we start off talking about how it improves on the predecessor's coding skills, plans more carefully, it sustains agentic tasks for longer, all great things. I think we are all going to be excited to see that the pricing stays the same compared to Opus 4.5. And also on top of that, it has a million token context window. So that's pretty big. Now you do end up paying higher API pricing once you get to those higher tiers of context. You know, we can go through the charts of saying like, oh, what's this thing good at? It's obviously they're not going to drop anything that's worse, so I feel like this is not really any surprise. We got a first impressions section where it thinks more deeply, more carefully, revisits its reasoning. All great stuff. I think all things we expect from Anthropic at this point. We get into the benchmarks down here, and you can see where it actually loses to 4.5 on agentic coding, but it's only 0.1%, so I feel like that's probably within the margin of error, but also probably not, because they definitely did not want to show that. But anyway, pretty big increase on the terminal coding, and also really nice jump on agentic computer use. I think with all that said, you're going to see significant gains with this. Long context retrieval is another big one that you'll see right here. But in classic fashion, they're comparing it with Sonnet 4.5. So, feel like it's not a good... When they do stuff like this, I don't think it's much better than the previous version. There's a lot of stuff in here, guys. I think if you're interested, go ahead and you can dive into all this stuff. Products and API updates. The key points from here is we'll have a 1 million token context. So it's in beta. And then also once you get past the typical 200,000 token context window, the price increases for the API. So something to keep in mind. I think something that we'll look forward to in the future. And hopefully as time progresses, the increased context windows, the price will come down. But that's awesome to see the increased token context. I think, one of the things we struggle with where I work is things get lost in context because it's not big enough. So we're happy to see that for sure. So go play with it. It's supposed to be a good model. I haven't gotten to spend too much time with it, but the vibes are good so far. So we're going to go over here. Next up on the list is GPT-5.3-Codex from an OpenAI. And this one's kind of about the same story. It's a little bit better of a model from OpenAI. If you want to go through here, you can see the benchmarks and whatnot. This one is kind of cool. Sometimes they throw this type of chart around where you can see that it improves, or it has higher scores with less tokens. So that's also nice to see, because a lot of times, even though these models might be more expensive, they end up being a slightly cheaper or comparable because they can do more with less tokens. So this one's really funny. If you look at this, Terminal Bench 2.0. All right, so this dropped after Opus 4.6 did. Now let's go back to Opus 4.6 to compare. Let's pull up the terminal bench. Okay, 65.4%. This was a big deal, right? Because obviously it was the best one. It beat GPT 5.2. And then look over here, like 10 minutes later, I'm not even kidding, OpenAI dropped their model and they stomped them with the 77.3% on the terminal bench. So they're not playing around. All right. Now, OpenAI does a better job of showing you some things. They got like, hey, we can play these, or we can make these games now. It's really cool to see. This one has like physics and stuff built in. If we'll, you guys can see it. It's pretty cool. I'm definitely going to be trying to make some games here on in a few minutes after this. But really cool stuff. This is a comparison between front ends of 5.3 and 5.2. You'll see that everything is just like kind of spaced out nicely. I'm not a designer, so I probably can't say this in the right terminology, but everything's just like spaced out better. Everything's spaced out well. Okay, and even down here in this little thing, it's automated. It flips through the pages by itself. These buttons actually work. compare that with 5.2 Codex, and the spacing is a little, I don't know, it's a little wonky. There's things that don't do anything or don't make sense. The previous and next buttons don't work on here. Pricing is just kind of, again, spacing's weird. This is just a demo, by the way. This isn't like real pricing for anything. And back to the pricing on 5.3 Codex, you can see they added some more detail, and it just looks nicer. So, I don't think Codex was known as the front end guy, the front end model in the space, but it's nice to see improvements there for sure. Beyond coding, they go on and talk about how you can do PowerPoints and Excels. PowerPoints aren't that impressive, to be honest. I mean, cool that it can do it. Financial advice slides, again, it doesn't look that great. Maybe the data's nice. Maybe if you're a PowerPoint wizard, you can go in and make the changes to that yourself. The spreadsheet's cool, I guess, if the data is correct, which I'm assuming it is. I'm not going to sit here and do this math, but again, cool that it can go ahead and make changes in Excel like that. And they're going to go through and they're going to talk about their benchmarks and whatnot. They do a little Codex demo, which we've talked about Codex in our shorts before. And that's pretty much it. Here's the model. Here's the benchmarks here at the bottom. So very cool stuff. It's super awesome to have 2 drops of major models back to back in the same day. Super exciting to see that. Now, next on the menu, we got ourselves a little bit of a different thing. They're introducing their OpenAI Frontier, and what they're kind of saying is like, hey, we're going to let businesses go ahead and set up special agents and kind of use them as employees in a way. So it's interesting to see what they try to do here. They're saying it's a new platform that helps enterprises build, deploy, and manage AI agents that can do real work. That sounds super cool if it works. So the thing is, though, it's not available really yet. They've partnered with a few companies, and that's who gets to use it right now. So maybe we'll see as time goes on if this thing actually turns out to be pretty good. This is interesting, though. I think it proves out that they're moving towards the direction of trying to help everybody automate their jobs, so you're freed up to do some of the more creative work. We got another section of plan, act, and solve problems with shared context in place. Agents need to be able to actually do the work, which, yeah, so I don't know. They go on to talk about how it kind of collaborates with each other and whatnot, which is super cool. I'd be interested to play with this once they release it to the public, but like I said, I don't think it's readily available now. And they talk about permissions and boundaries, which is going to be important for enterprise customers. And then they do have a big section about how you can throw in your expertise from your business in there. So all stuff you love to see. And then kind of on that same note, we're going to switch over to Anthropic, who dropped this article, building a C compiler with a team of parallel Claudes. And at first, you're just kind of like, oh, okay, they just threw a bunch of agents at this. Well, in here, they kind of release their new addition to Claude Code. We switch over to the Claude docs, and we can say orchestrated team of Claude Code sessions. So this is them talking about their agent teams and their orchestrator agent. This allows you to orchestrate agents in a different way than what you might think of when you're thinking of sub-agents. So they even have a little section down here where they're comparing sub-agents with the agent teams. And, they have the same thing as far as context goes. They have their own context window, except agent teams are fully independent, and sub-agents always return the results to the caller. So there's always the main agent and then the sub-agent, whereas the agent teams can go ahead and orchestrate and do all these things together on their own, and then also communicate with each other. And this, I think, is already available in Claude Code. I can't imagine how expensive it will be if you try to spin up an agent team on Opus 4.6, especially once you get past that huge context window. But again, super cool, and I think I'll love to see what this turns into in the future, especially once models get better and cheaper. So a lot of good stuff from Anthropic and OpenAI today. A few other tidbits. OpenAI tweeted this out. They talked about partnering with a lab to connect GPT-5 to an autonomous lab to propose experiments, run them at scale, learn from the results, and decide what to try next. And they eventually closed the loop and brought protein production costs down by 40%. So that's super cool to see, AI used in a real world space and how this might lead to scientific advancements in different areas. I'm not going to sit here and act like I know what the protein production is all about, but I like to see scientific advancements, so it's cool to see. To recap, we got Opus 4.6, we got GPT 5.3 Codex, we got OpenAI Frontier, which is an awesome product if it comes to light fully, which I'm sure it will. And then also on the Claude side, it's nice to see that we got the whole orchestration of a team of agent teams and branching out of that sub-agent system. I'm going to try to do more of these guys. This was obviously a big news day. I'm typically running shorts or TikToks. This was too much to talk about in one, so I decided to make a longer form video. But subscribe if you like this stuff, guys. Leave a comment if you want to talk about it. I'm always down to talk, but I'll catch you guys next time. Peace.